Welcome to a new Grand Ventures Founder Spotlight. Today we are interviewing James Mikrut from Payload. Payload is a company that Grand Ventures invested into in September 2022. We co-invested along with Gradient Ventures, which is Google, a number of other great VC firms, as well as Mongo Ventures.
Yeah.
James, thanks for joining us today. Great to see you again. Why don't we start out with, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a mutt. I am half designer, half engineer, and I feel like that's somewhat rare, but I taught myself from the ground up how to write code and build digital things, and started my career in Chicago, working for a German e-commerce company. So I got to fly out to Germany, work with the German engineers. It was a lot of fun, but I've been an entrepreneur since 2015. And I had a digital design agency. And that's kind of where the idea for Payload came from. I have a 1-year-old daughter. She is beautiful and she's a maniac. And I love being a dad. And I ride motorcycles.
Awesome. It sounds like you were in the industry for a while. You were in different capacities, but I'm always curious when someone finally, decides to quit a perfectly good job and start a company. What motivated you to start Payload?
Well, that's a good question. I left a quite successful job. It was my own company, but I closed it because I was passionate about this idea. And some people probably do consider that as insane, but it was through that company that the idea for Payload even came about, because my company was a subject matter expert with headless CMS. And I started to get hired all over the world for building and designing high-end enterprise websites. And one time, a company called Klarna out of Stockholm hired me to help them with their technology, design their website, and build the entire website. And they made me do it on WordPress. And I don't like that, not a fan of that. This website was multi-region, so there was the UK, Germany, Sweden, Australia, North America, Asia Pacific, 200 editors logging into this website to manage the content. And they built it on blogging software from 2003. So there's nothing wrong with WordPress, but I don't believe that it belongs powering critical content for massive enterprises. And right then and there, I just saw the writing on the wall, and I said, hey, if no one can take Klarna's money, I probably could. So I'll build something that they could have used instead of WordPress to power their website.
Awesome. You mentioned WordPress. CMSs like WordPress have been around for decades. How would you describe how Payload's different from a traditional CMS like WordPress?
Yeah, so WordPress is great for spinning up small projects quickly. And the way that you extend or customize WordPress is generally based on plugins. So you kind of throw a Hail Mary, install a plugin, and hope that the site doesn't crash until it magically works. And if you need to build something truly custom, generally that's a very, very difficult and time-consuming thing to do. And enterprise use cases can't move quickly with a framework like WordPress. And typically what you would do as an enterprise with something custom is you reach for an application framework, but then you're left to build everything from scratch. So Payload is much more than a content management system. It actually kind of merges into the application framework territory, which is cool because enterprises can move quickly, build custom things, and scale with the product into the future. So they don't need to rebuild every couple years just to keep up with their own product. And it's more just developer first. It's more extensible and significantly more modern.
Got it. One of the things that excited us when we first met James and learned about Payload was that your approach was the initial Payload was delivered through an open source project.
Yeah.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about why did you take an open source approach?
Well, number one, open source comes with benefits and challenges. For example, WordPress powers 50% of the internet. And that type of scale is just massive. And the only way you can truly reach that type of mind share is by building an open source project. So there's a lot of benefits there, but then the challenge is how to monetize it. And for a long time, I delayed on going open source because I knew that I wanted this to be a successful business that I could build my life into. And one day we finally cracked the code for how we could have the best of both worlds. We could build an open source product and then monetize it through features and functions that every enterprise needs and would be happy to pay for, but the typical freelance engineer would not miss at all. So the freelancers get what they want, and the big enterprises get what they want, and I get to kind of garner the benefits of open source growth and also a proper revenue strategy.
Got it. Just one more question on open source. One of the things we liked when we first ran into Payload was you built a really fervent open source community. Not just GitHub stars, and I know you have over 10,000 now, but tons of contributors, lots of issues, tons of people deploying into production on Payload. Can you talk a little bit about how you sort of built that community up?
Yeah, community is key for anything open source. It's absolutely critical to the movement behind the software. And you get people, if you do it right, you get people to start talking about your product and building into your product and adding features for you. And it's a collaborative, truly transparent process. But to actually get people engaged, you need to engage with them. If they come into your Discord channel and they send a few messages, and then fast forward 3 weeks and they send another one, you need to recognize that they are a return user. You need to understand who they are. They're a real person. And every time someone comes into the community, you just treat them like a real person and you develop a relationship with them, and it's a snowball from there.
Yeah, okay, got it. Switching gears a little bit, Grand Ventures, not surprisingly, is based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And interestingly, Payload is only our second investment ever in Grand Rapids. We've been around 7 to 8 years, made 25 investments. And so, Payload is headquartered in Grand Rapids. What I'd like to sort of ask you is, why Grand Rapids for you?
Yeah, a lot of people ask about why Grand Rapids. To me, the answer I always laugh at, what other people would say, is it's because we're nice. And I think that's a stupid answer. I don't think I'm very nice, but what Grand Rapids has that other cities don't have is the beach, lighthouses, sand dunes, boating, nature, beautiful summers, a change of seasons, a great cost of living. You can raise a family here. Grand Rapids as a city is very organized and it's very deliberate and it's clean and it feels right and doable without being too overwhelming. And there is no real magic place for me. If I could design a city, it would probably be warm and it would be still very urban. That doesn't exist, at least to what I would want it to be. So Grand Rapids is the best choice for me.
Great. So what gets you out of bed in the morning, James?
Number one, generally my dog or my daughter. But what I like to do the most and what I look forward to is actually engineering. Writing code and refactoring code and making it more performant and more simple. I think the best abstractions in code are generally the simplest ones so that you can literally read the code like it's English and you understand it. When you get to too complex of structures, then it becomes more of a job. But if you can make it simple and performant, I really love that. I love doing that. And that's at the core of what Payload is.
Awesome. What keeps you up at night?
Delegating. I'm at that magic spot as a company where I need to start letting departments kind of self-serve and have them line up with my mission and my vision. but we're only 12 people, and I'm at that cusp right now where I still have my hand in everything. And I guess I always will, but it's very hard for me to relinquish control right now. So I'm still working on that.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense, I think, especially for the stage you're at. Right?
Yep.
So what's one soft skill you've realized is sort of supremely important to kind of be successful in what you do?
Speak in simple terms to people that have no idea what I'm talking about. Generally, especially in Michigan. In Silicon Valley, it's a little different. Everybody already pretty much knows. You know.
The lingo.
Yeah, the lingo. Just the industry kind of technology. Everything moves so fast, but when you talk to somebody like my mom, I have to really, really break it down and like make it so that it's easily understandable. And that can be applied to anything. I think over communication is great, and just being extremely deliberate and clear with detail is something I've learned.
Got it. Do you have any like non-negotiables in business or life that that matter to you?
One thing, I hire for passion.
Yeah.
I kind of said this earlier, but I love what I do, and it's not a job. I don't like work behind a counter doing something the same every day. I get to create and I get to think through problems, and I love it. And whenever I hire, the hire needs to be passionate, and they need to learn, and they need to push themselves, and they need to be committed to their work. And if they are, then they're going to be a productive employee. And if it's just somebody that's looking for a job, that's a non-negotiable for me.
Got it. What are you most excited about right now?
We're launching additional database support within the next month, and that's our #1 most upvoted roadmap feature. And I can see why. I don't necessarily agree with it. You got to give the people what they want, but I think it's going to blow the doors off.
Awesome.
And we have a couple big contracts coming up as well, which I'm excited about. But it just seems like a very energetic time for us. So in general, I'm just excited.
What's next for Payload?
Well, a couple of those contracts are going to close, #1. We want to shape our enterprise offering through enterprise partnerships that allow us to build what they need. And that way that will strengthen the product. It will strengthen my foundation as a company, and it will make the team see the true purpose of the software. And I'm just excited about that.
Amazing. Yeah, well, let me jump over to some fun questions, or more about you. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Automotive engineer.
Oh, really? Did you start there, by the way?
No, well, I am a mechanic somewhat. My dad is a mechanic, and I love Formula One. I love the engineering side of mechanical things, and I always wanted to design cars, but my backup plan was to be a graphic designer when I was young. I didn't really have the foresight to see that you're only a graphic designer for like 5 years at max, and then you got to figure out what's next. Art director, creative director. So I'm kind of doing what I wanted to do when I was younger, besides the automotive factor.
Yeah. Are you self-taught in terms of coding and software engineering?
Everything, yeah. I went to a community college for a couple of years. And not to talk poorly about anyone, but my teacher, my professor said, "What is this Google I keep hearing about?" And I was like, "All right, I'm out. See you later." And then I taught myself the rest of the way.
That's awesome. What is something only a few people know about you that you're willing to share today?
People think that I am a computer, but I actually have a very high degree of empathy. I'm not going to lie. People don't get that, but I do, and it usually comes out at night. So,
okay. Where was your last/best vacation? Could be either.
Key West, motorcycle trip.
Oh, really?
It's not the most exotic thing. I've been all over the world, but you rent a motorcycle in Miami and you ride down to Key West with a bunch of buddies, and that is fun. You go fishing and you just unplug for a week, and that was fun.
That sounds amazing. What are you listening to right now? What's at the top of your playlist?
Emo, screamo, hard metal. Right now, probably my favorite, the band at the top of my playlist is It's like a San Diego punk surfer kind of emo band that's really unique called Beach Goons. Very obscure, but I think they're great. I listen to all kinds of stuff.
That's awesome. So on a typical Sunday afternoon, what are you doing?
Now I'm playing with my daughter. In the summertime, I used to have a boat, and I loved the boating aspect of Michigan. I sold it, and then I got busy, and I never bought another one. But I would generally be at the lake. I like to go anchor out in Lake Michigan and just hang out all day.
Mm-hmm. Was it fishing or just being on the lake?
No, killing animals freaks me out. I've done it. I've fished. I had fun, but I'm not a fan of hooking something into an animal's mouth. So generally, that's not just the boating. Just the boating.
Got it. Well, that's great. That's sort of the end of my sort of canned questions. Is there anything else you want to say about Payload or where you are in terms of your progress? Anything like that?
Yeah, I think just in general, it's kind of a dynamic time for the market, right? Valuations are everywhere. Enterprise budgets are going up and down and refactoring and looking at AI and trying back to they're optimizing their own technology that they already have. Open source growth is also something that I don't think is truly figured out. So there's a lot ahead for me, but I think it's an exciting time and that I'm not afraid of it. And I just think the next couple of years are going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to do it right here in Grand Rapids. So we're going to have our HQ open up in a couple months, and it's a very exciting time for us.
Well, fantastic. Well, this was great. Appreciate the time. Always nice getting together with you, James.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.